Very mil Margaret, and Taoiseach, I welcome the opportunity to take part. I deplore the fact that we have such little time. You ran out of time, I think, yourself in relation to the speech. And let me just say that I have 5 minutes in this very restricted debate to deal with 2 motions that you're putting before us to approve, which isn't possible. And I certainly will not be supporting you. And then you add insult to injury by telling us that there was a good debate at committee level, which I understand was an hour and a half. So you've presented a speech tonight and you've presented a report which you're statutorily obliged to do. And there's a difference between the two which I welcome. So in your speech today there's absolutely no mention of the triple lock, interestingly enough. It's never mentioned, the triple lock. No, thank you. Well, no, interestingly, you see, in your report, and you're reporting on your report today now, part of the motion is to accept this report, and this report is on the service by the Defence Forces with the United Nations. And significantly in that, rather than giving us an outline of that, and you pay tribute to them, and I welcome that, you highlight the fantastic peacekeeping work that they do and the lives they've saved. But you spend almost 2 pages telling us about the triple lock. And you refer to the consultative committee. In a report in relation to our peacekeeping forces serving abroad, you use that report to tell us about a triple lock and how we should get rid of the triple lock. And you put in the consultative forum, which was a packed body, and notwithstanding that it was a packed body, it still didn't give you the answer that you wanted. And the answer was there's absolutely no appetite for losing our neutrality. And so you take the opportunity in the report, you don't take it in your speech, and you tell us the consultative forum took place when it did, and detailed and well-informed discussion, which I would totally agree with, and the triple lock and so on. And you go on to talk about that in your report, which shouldn't be there at all. So I would say straight on the record, when we talk about disinformation and combating disinformation, there's an onus on us to tell the truth. We can disagree with each other, but let me look what you've said. Fianna Fáil is dedicated to Ireland's policy of military neutrality. It is a policy which we have pursued both in government and out of it, has key defining features. Fianna Fáil reaffirms its commitment to the retention of the triple lock and so on. Forgive me if I can't go into it, but it's your manifesto and I'm not taking it out of sync, and it's there for you. You know when that was? 2020. Let's go back to 2013, courtesy of People Before Profit, who did a very good motion lately and outlined it and took the trouble of outlining the background. The Taoiseach Micheál Martin said in 2013 that the triple lock was at the core of our neutrality. At the core of our neutrality, and described the attempt to undermine it as an out-of-touch ideological obsession on the part of Fine Gael. Now, of course, there's no difference between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael now, so I can see why you might have changed, but I'd certainly welcome that you would use the opportunity to tell us what has led you to abandon that very strong position and tell us that the triple lock has nothing to do with our neutrality, notwithstanding that we signed various declarations and different names given to them, forced the people to vote twice for Nice, vote twice for Lisbon, on the guarantee that our neutrality would not be touched. And you come here before us in this manner, and I agree with what Deputy Murphy has said, although I don't like the image of the frog being boiled, but that's exactly what's happening here. Bit by bit, you're taken from our neutrality. And it's insulting to do it to us, because we have an obligation as parliamentarians to analyse, as Deputy Howland has said, whether we agree with each other or not, to analyse and to have a detailed report from a committee that helps us to understand why we now suddenly need to get rid of a triple lock. And up to very recently, you never quoted anybody but Russia. I've deplored Russia's invasion of the Ukraine, so I can adopt the high moral ground here. There was never a condemnation of America's use of the veto, which I understand is on parallel with Russia. We have no mention in this speech, but we do have Hamas, which I've condemned, but there's no condemnation of Israel in the report. But you do mention Hamas, and you talk about the security situation changing, and Hamas is singled out. Could you be in a position to tell me how many people have been slaughtered in Palestine right up to now when we're talking? Perhaps you might have the up-to-date figures from a government that's utterly out of control, a rogue government that's before the International Criminal Court or the International Court of Justice for genocide. Okay. We are supporting that through van der Leyen through your MEPs who said before they were elected they would not support her. You sound like Pat Rabbit in days gone by that said, promises us what we do before an election, and after election then the real world takes over. Well, I stand here proudly and tell you that our voice should be used for peace, that we should retain our neutrality and the triple lock. We should use the General Assembly, and I'm not ashamed to say that I am absolutely appalled at the way Europe is going, the military direction. We have almost 14,000 homeless, and we are now agreeing with van der Leyen to put millions, if not billions, into the industrial military complex to lead to more deaths. I unashamedly stand here and say I will not support either of these motions. Garamagad.